the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and thanks for everyone that continues to tune in. Welcome back. And for those that are new, you're in for a treat. Today we have an awesome guest. His name is Preston. He is a physical therapist out of Draper, Utah. And I'll go into that in just a minute with the intro. But first, I just wanted to say, if you're new here, everything that I discuss can be wrapped up into three main topics. We talk about the outdoors, family, and fitness, health. All of those three things, everything else can be wrapped up into that. And I just want to have a voice out there that's a regular Joe, nothing too crazy in my life as far as super successful in a career yet. I'll get there eventually, but I am having success, finding success on a daily basis and hitting goals as I'm making my way through life on this rock that's spinning around and around and around. And I want to share that with everyone else, that there is hope, that there is, you can accomplish the goals that you want. You can do it. And so I just share that with you. And we've been getting on some awesome guests recently. And I just want to also let you know that you can find me over at red.beard.outdoors on Instagram. I post there daily. You can shoot me a message if you have any questions or if you're wanting to hear from someone that I haven't had on the podcast yet. Also find me over on Facebook. And in the links down below, I have my Facebook group there where we've got a little tight-knit community where we talk about health, fitness, our journeys in that aspect. Everyone's dealing with struggles. Everyone has trials in this life, and we're just trying to get through this life as successful as possible. And I want people to feel invigorated and to know that they can get out, live their life, and love it. And that's why I always say that, and I mean it. So anyway, on to our guest. Again, like I said, this is a special treat. He's a good friend. He's becoming a quick and good friend of mine. I met him through Instagram because I used to want to be a physical therapist, and I was interested in his ideas behind physical therapy, how he focuses mainly on archery, but also is a physical therapist for many other fields and many other injuries and things that can happen in day-to-day life. He does virtual meetings. He has a clinic, like I said, based out of Draper, Utah. He's an awesome all-around guy. He's got a wife and a daughter. He's a hunter. He works with the I want to say it's the DO Utah, or the Disabled Outdoorsmen. He's also recently worked with the USA Archery team and many other aspects of archery and physical therapy. He's well-versed, knows what he's doing, awesome guy, has an amazing vision. And so I was able to snag him in some of his non-busy time, which is probably never. So I'm counting myself blessed to be able to have him on the podcast. And he shares some of his thoughts with us about who he is, what he does, what his goals are with MTN Physio, which is his company. And he's just an awesome guy. So hopefully you guys enjoy this podcast. If you get something out of this, please share it with others. Let others know there's this awesome physical therapist here, and that you were able to learn something or to laugh or enjoy the podcast as much as I did making it. So without further ado, here is our awesome guest, Preston. All right. So we got here Preston Ward from MTN Physio, and I just got a couple questions for him, but I met him at TAC. And even before that, I was seeing some of his stuff on Instagram, and I really like the people he works with seem to really enjoy his work, and I love physical therapy and everything that he's about. So Preston, give us a brief intro. Who are you?
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it. RedBeard, I should call you, I guess. I'm a fellow RedBeard as well, because that's who I am.
That's what happened. That's how we first started to mesh. The ginger beards.
I've got my RedBeard sticker on my bow case. No, who am I? I'm Dr. Preston Ward. I am in Salt Lake City. Let's see, I grew up here my whole life, actually, in Utah, and went to school here. Went to graduate school at the University of Utah. Graduated, oh my gosh, like 5 years ago. And then I did a residency while I was doing a residency, while I was finishing up a residency, actually, in orthopedics, I was up at the local bow shop called Wild Arrow. And while I was there, heard a bunch of different people complaining of their shoulder injuries and pain. And I've got to miss the season because of this and that and the other. And so anyways, I ended up starting up my own business. So that's when I decided to look into it a little further. And there was at that time still no one had kind of, I guess, been a physical therapist solely into the archery industry. And so to get my feet wet and jump into the industry and help out fellow hunters, I figured, it's always better to go to a clinician or someone that has similar experiences or who knows your sport and stuff. And so I'm like, if there's not anyone doing this in archery, I should be the one that does it. And so anyway, I started my business about 3 years ago, and it'll be 3 years this March. And yeah, since then, just been going well. So we live here in Sandy, Salt Lake area. I'm married and have a little girl as well, a little daughter, and yeah, a couple dogs, mule, shoot my bow a lot, and do some duck hunting right now is about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, that's how great ideas start. The whole, I need to fill this gap. And I think that's awesome that you saw that. I love physical therapy. I was actually considering being a physical therapist at one point, changed my route because the schools didn't want me. And so I chose to go another route, but I love everything that physical therapy does as far as preventative care, maintenance, and also repair. There's a whole bunch that goes into that. So that's awesome. Now, if correct me if I'm wrong, you worked with the USA team this year, didn't you?
I did, yeah. And I'll jump into that, but just to kind of quickly piggyback off your last comment there is, I think so many people, when I first started, people were like, so you only see people after they broke a bone or something like that. And it's like, no, like physical therapy to me is all about the whole body, whole health and wellness. And really, so injury prevention, rehab, obviously, like you mentioned, after an injury, and then lots of preparation for the season. And so anyways, that's kind of another side tangent there. But I think so many people think PT is just, physical therapy. They sometimes think PT is personal training, but physical therapy in general is very broad, encompassing, and encompasses the whole body, wellness and functional stuff like that. So, but yeah, to answer.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I just, that's why I like it so much. The physical therapy aspect is, and I like to say prepare rather than repair, because if you're preparing properly, there's a lesser chance of you getting injured. And then some people just have to come back from an injury because they didn't repair or prepare. So I like that. I like that you take both aspects into account.
Yeah. And you're you're always hitting the gym. I always see the stuff on Instagram and everything. You're diligent. You're consistent is I think the word I said the other day. But yeah, even myself this year, like mid-season, I was hunting the extended archery hunt, and I guess more the end of the season, and putting in a lot of miles, putting in, multiple 3-4 days a week. I was hunting, even if it was just for an hour, just trying to find these bucks and stuff like that. And ended up with some Achilles tendonitis and tendinosis at this point, probably. And I'm still rehabbing it myself. But yeah, there's so many times that people are just like kind of push through the season, and then they get to about this time and they're like, either they take full advantage of it and they're like, let's get this fixed so I can be ready for next year, or they just kind of dismiss it. And then it usually ends up turning into a problem later on. And so anyways, kind of interesting thought there. And
yeah, no, for sure. I agree. And since yesterday, I know technically there's 2 more days left in the extended archery hunt for elk. But I told myself that yesterday was my last day. I need to dedicate the rest of the year to my family. So since yesterday was my last day, I walked into the gym, and I'm in the gym at least 5 to 6 days a week. And if not, I'm on the mountain. Mm-hmm. And so today was just one of those days where it just kind of hit me. I'm like, okay, I'm prepping for 2022 season, and it starts now. Right. And I like what you're saying about that too. It's, it can start with the small things like band work. You don't have to go in and work a ton of weight. Just working the bands, getting those smaller stabilization muscles and tendons and ligaments all working together and strengthened so that you don't have those issues when you go out on the mountain.
Yeah. No, that's good that you've given yourself a time frame or a time limit of this is the last day. I think I should probably do that more often as well, because hunting season, gosh, it can consume, especially hunting on, as you know, bow hunting on the front can be time consuming. The people that I know that are consistent, like get it done every year. My friend shot a nice buck this year. I think he logged, had to have been 20 or 30 days of hunting. It was a lot. And then same thing, he shot an elk later, his wife did. And they were down, like driving 4 hours away. Like it was almost like 15 days of hunting. So anyways, people that put in the work tend to be consistent, but I'm glad that you gave yourself a time frame. It's got to be done here. But no, I was going to also mention, I'll say this just time and time again, that I think the people who are people who I always just tell, like, it seems like us hunters, we always try to invest in good gear, good stuff like that. It's kind of the trend, I feel like. And I believe it 100%, like good gear is a good thing. But I always say it like the most important piece of gear you invest in is yourself. And you're a good example of that, like putting in the work, putting in the time, training in the gym, either doing band work, doing some, repair work, anything like that, just really trying to make sure that the whole body is coming together for 2022, which, yeah, I mean, whether you turkey hunt in the spring or spring bear hunt or anything like that, like the season will be here soon and it gets busy, but yeah, you got to put in the work and invest in yourself. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's not easy, and it's definitely a good driver. It's kind of like I see so many people, especially, and I'm brand new into archery. But I've already seen people that they do the thing where they dust their bow off the week before the season. They shoot maybe a broadhead through it. And they're like, okay, we're good to go. And I feel like people treat their bodies the same way. They're kind of like, I'm going to sit on the couch until, a week before my season. And now all of a sudden I've got to hike up that hill, or I've got to do this or that, and my knees are messing me up, or my shoulder, like I tweaked it because I haven't shot my bow in a year and I pulled it back. And there's just so many things that go into it. And just those tiny little reps every single day. I just tell people, like, not to embarrass people, but I'm like, how much time did you spend on Netflix yesterday? I'm like, you don't have to answer me. Just think about that. Think about if you took 30 minutes of that and you went to the gym, or if you just bought some bands and did it at your house. They're not that expensive. So just some food for thought there.
Food for thought. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that, Jonathan, that, yeah, just the little things, the maintenance, all that stuff. Even to the fact of, like, I do a lot of stuff in my own gym here and everything, shooting your bow, and just like the little things, just all the time. But yeah, I think that's what's so fun about archery and bow hunting in general, is I feel like there's a different, I don't want to say different crowd or anything, but there's just this, it's a difficult sport. It's difficult to be successful in archery. I can think of probably almost every animal that I had an opportunity at. This big deer that I missed, I know that you and I were texting about that and stuff. Could have shot him 10 times over with a rifle and whatever, but that drive, or just that, I guess, passion for archery and stuff, it's hard and it drives people. But again, at the same time, that's why I love getting into it, is it's those certain people that are in archery, those consistent bow hunters that are like, they put in work all the time, all season, there's no off season. They're just always training or shooting or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm just waiting to see you start shooting ducks with a bow. It's
happening next year. Sure.
Oh yeah. You got to get one of those, like a net extension or something to, like, throw on the end of your bow so it just shoots out.
Exactly. No, I was talking to the guys at Wild Arrow the other day, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna hopefully draw a swan tag, and I'm gonna try to do it with a bow. But anyways.
That's awesome, dude. Cool. So tell me a little bit more about this, your experience. Was this your first time working with the USA team?
Yeah. So this last year it was, and how it all started is basically I had a patient, as well, a friend who basically reached out to me and said, Preston, there's this position available. He's on the team and stuff like that as well. And he's like, you're a perfect fit. Like, you do archery, you understand archery. we need someone who understands the health, the medical side of things, ideally physical therapist. And he's like, it'd be perfect. You'd be a great fit. And so anyways, I applied. I remember actually I was, oh man, yeah, last season. And so a little over a year ago, and he texted me in like November when I was up on the front hunting, and on my phone, I'm sitting there like filling out this application. And anyways, so I remember that. And then they called me up and they're like, yeah, we want you to travel with us to, I think the first trip was, it was with the para archery team. So the Olympic level team there to Mexico for, I think it was might have been a World Cup. No, it was the Pan American Games. So here going to my first time to go to Mexico and have basically the whole Pan America, like everyone from the Americas at this venue was pretty dang cool. And then I went a few months later with the team to Guatemala, the able-bodied team, recurvers, compounders, everything like that. That was a lot of fun. And then the last venue or event I went to was the World Cup finals. And so they do, I think they do 3 cups and then the finals. And the finals was in South Dakota there. And it was cool. That was a lot of fun too. I mean, these are just incredibly talented people. It's fun to be around archery. You and I could probably geek out on archery all day long and stuff. And so now to geek out with even bigger archery geeks is kind of fun. I mean that in the nicest way. Like these guys, they know, I'm just impressed with them. They know they've been shooting archery pretty much their whole life. Right. But, or not even, sometimes they've only been shooting a couple of years, but they just know their equipment. They just know how to tinker and, they just know how to do all that stuff, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. It's interesting to see some of those guys. Even, I haven't really watched a lot of the US team, but just at the major shoots, like how they make these crazy small adjustments on the fly. And I'm like, I wouldn't want to touch my sight if I was standing up there on stage and you guys are over there, like throwing it around. Like, it just blows me away. But that's awesome. That's cool that you had that experience, man. And that you were able to fill that role. So I just want to ask, what are 3 things, if you could name 3 things that drive you on a daily basis? What are those 3 things? Because you're an entrepreneur, you've got your own business, and you work remotely, and I know you've got your own place as well. But what are 3 things that drive you? Because you could just sit back and do nothing.
Man, usually on these podcasts they prep you and say, this is what I'm going to ask you. So this is good. This is raw.
Nope, I like it raw.
The 3 things that drive me, I think, like at the end of this will probably be, I don't know, maybe it's cliche not, but probably my number one is like my family, right? I think and when I say that, I think being an entrepreneur and having my family come first is what drives me, in the fact of I enjoy that challenge of having to, my wife sometimes not so much, but having to balance work and family. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, as an entrepreneur, like being able to devote time to my patients, my mountain athletes, clients that way. But then at the end of the day, being able to devote the time to my family, which is ultimately what I'm trying to do, right? Build up this business and everything else like that so that I can basically spend some time with my family as well. I think so many of us are, either stuck in a job where you're just not with your family very much. And I'm like, that's my number one. That's what I want to do. I want to be with my family. And then I'd say right up there at the same level would be just that. I think you mentioned at the beginning today is recognizing that gap. So finding that void in the industry that, hey, there's this thing that's missing. Like we've got a lot of great influencers. We've got a lot of great, personal trainers. We've got a lot of things like that in the field. However, like this medical side of thing, or having that, medical degree, that I have where it's like I can oversee and think things through a little bit differently, I think is really important. So having that drive of let's fill this void. And like ultimately my end goal, one of my end goals with this is like, I want to have a fully comprehensive clinic that has everything, that encompasses everything across the country, where people can say, hey, I have this going on. Where can I go? Oh, this is where you're going to go. You live in Pennsylvania, you're going to go to this person right here because they're an archer themselves as well. They're a bow hunter or whatever. So I'm in the process of building up something like that right now. So that's another thing that drives me, is just that entrepreneur, filling up that void. But I'd say those two things. And then shoot, what else drives me? It would be, I guess, going along that lines, looking at my whiteboard right now, is just health. Like is providing, is be like, I love the interaction that I have with every single one of my patients, and having that one-on-one interaction. My model, as you know, is different than most models, where I do a lot of things here in the state, remotely, all sorts of things like that. Go to people's homes, go to their shops, whatever it is, their archery shops, just to provide this service for them, and having that interaction, like being able to interact with them one-on-one and on a more intimate level than having it be, I'm going to this provider and they see me for 30 minutes and then they pass me on to someone else, so they just feel like a number going into the system. Like, I don't want that. I want people to feel valued. And so I think that's what drives me as well, is trying my very best to make everyone feel like they have my attention 100% of the time. And like afterwards, build these programs and things like that. And then I'm texting them, hey, how are you doing? Hey, I was thinking of you. And I think now that I keep talking, maybe that's another thing that drives me, but it's more that it's along the same lines, is just that interaction with people. Like I really love that interaction with people that are on the same level, that have the same passion. And there's multiple times that almost about every day, like I'll and it's funny because I think my brother does it as well, where it's just like in our DNA, where like I'll call someone just randomly, one of my patients, hey, how you been doing? I've been thinking of you. You doing okay? You got everything you need? Or friends or acquaintances or people you meet on social media. It's like you just talk to each other and you kind of build this big network and family. And I think that's really one thing that drives me, is just that interaction with like-minded people. So
I like it. Yeah. And I find that a common theme, especially with people that are successful at being an entrepreneur. Their family is a major driver. So I know you were saying it might sound cliche, but I don't think it's cliche at all. I think it's something that is a major force behind people to be successful in whatever it is that they choose to do. And I do like the idea of getting kind of a network out there across the nation, so that you can send people to someone in person, rather than just having to do everything necessarily remotely and relying that they follow your instructions. Because I know that doesn't always happen. And I know that they'll say they did it, but you can tell, because if you know your stuff and you're confident in your instructions, and they're not having those results, they're not doing their homework. So I've seen that time and time again as well. That's awesome. But so another thing I want to ask you, what started I mean, you've kind of given us a little backstory behind MTN Physio, and but why that name? I know it seems kind of self-explanatory, and what's at the core of your business? Like what makes you different than any other physical therapist I could go to?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I was coming up with a lot of names when I was basically starting down the road of getting a business license and doing all that other stuff. And I think probably the number one reason behind the name is a physio as a physical therapist. And then really, like, if you think of, I guess, archery, bow hunting in general, myself, what I love, my passion is just being in the mountains. And so I think really that's kind of where I came up with MTN Physio. And at first I was like, it's kind of lame, but it's kind of growing on me now. And it's funny because when you're in that process of building a brand or anything like that, it's like what should we name it and what should the logo be? And it's just, there's a big process. And so, and people are always like, yeah, that's awesome. That sounds great. That's way cool. I'm like, should it be like, I don't know, archery PT or something like that? But I wanted it to be all encompassing as well. And so, because I get that question as well. It's like, do you only see archers? Well, no, I don't only see archers. I'm a physical therapist, and though my niche is in physical therapy, or excuse me, is in archery, but like I see all hunters. I see I see a lot of bow hunters, but I have that kind of niche there. And so anyways, I wanted to be all encompassed. I had a patient, I just recently posted about it, who is a 85-year-old man. Awesome. Just like, so whether you have private insurance, Medicare, whatever it is, like all these different insurances as well, Blue Cross Blue Shield, you name it. Like I see those people as well. And so, anyways, yeah, that would be why I came up with that. What was your other question?
Yeah, no, you're good. I like that answer. And then the other, what's at the core of Mtn Physio? What makes you different? What makes you stand apart?
Yeah. So I've kind of touched on this, but I think what makes, so as I was building up this brand and business, a lot of, I guess I'd say influencers in the PT world. So like in the business side of PT things, influenced me to really kind of have this, this model that I've chosen so the model that I've chosen is 100% cash based. And the reason for that is I truly believe, and like, there's numbers to back it, of why it's a better model for healthcare than having these insurance, based plans. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have insurance, and I'm not saying that I don't accept insurance. Like I do. However, like if you look at someone who fully invests themselves, like they're taking full responsibility for their health, just like you or anyone, going to spend. I was just looking at some of the new bows. So they're going to spend $1,800 on a bow. If their parents give it to them, they're going to, maybe not give a, they're not going to take care of they're not going to take care of it as much. But if they go invest that money, then they're going to take care of it better as well. And so there's a lot of models that say how a cash-based clinic such as myself gets people better faster, saves people money, so many things like that. And so when it came down to it, I was thinking of like the model that I wanted to do. I wanted to be there for my patients, and so have some virtual consultations that way. If people were going to the range, hey Preston, will you come look at me and watch me shoot and stuff like that, watch my mechanics, correct me on this and that and the other, and absolutely, let's go to the range. And so I would say right now I'm doing about 30% virtual, 30% where they come to my clinic, and then 30% where I'm either going to their house and doing some like a very modernized model, which I think can be very beneficial for patients. At the end of the day, it's like, what can I do for my patients, my clients, and be there for them? And so like, you're familiar with the Salt Lake Valley, but it's not unheard of for me to travel down to, South Utah County, up to Davis County, Ogden, all this Tooele, like all over Park City area, just to provide good care, just to be there for them. And so, yeah. And I think, sorry, one more thing is, so besides my model of setting me apart, my experience and like understanding of orthopedics, the human body, things like that, and my schooling. But so my certification is definitely something that I worked really hard for. But then as well, my ability to apply that into the sport that I'm passionate about and have other people passionate about that same sport, it's really helpful to, like I mentioned, if you're a baseball player, to go see a strength and conditioning coach who understands baseball, or a PT who understands baseball. If you're an archer, it's super important to see someone who understands archery.
No, yeah, I agree with that 100%. And going back to your model of the cash base, like a lot of people might be put off by that at first, but I've noticed that if people aren't willing to put a little bit down on themselves, they're not really invested. It's interesting. I'm recently started coaching on nutrition,
Nice.
and some minor fitness stuff, but just kind of like health coaching in general. And I've noticed the people that are all in actually start coming up with their own, challenges, and they're willing to put down a little bit of money versus the people that are like, the first question out of their mouth is, well, how much does it cost? You're like, in my mind, it's already kind of like, all right, you're not quite ready. And that's fine.
Mhm.
There's no problem with that, but you just need to be honest with yourself about it. Like, you're not ready to fix what you need to fix. And so I can see that being the same with physical therapy. And I like that word of responsibility that you said. There's a book that I really love, and I don't know if you've read it or not, but Extreme Ownership.
Mhm.
Have you read that book?
I haven't, no.
I'd highly
I've
recommend it.
seen it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Jocko Willink knocked it out of the park with that one. And anyway, it just talks about taking ownership in everything, even if, and one of his examples is just, he was a team lead in the SEALs. And if his people didn't do something right, it was his fault because he didn't explain it to them well enough that they could understand it. He didn't make sure that they understood it before they went out and did whatever mission or whatever they were doing. And so just the fact that he's willing to say that it's still his fault as the leader, that's that extreme ownership. Same with people in their health. If they're not willing to be honest and take that responsibility, it can be hard to overcome that hurdle until they really are ready.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting. So seeing this elderly patient who he and his wife and family decided they're like, they could have gone to any PT clinic and stuff, but they called me up and they're like, we don't want to just go and, get on a machine and sit there and, pedal for 20, 30 minutes and then leave and not do anything. And so like pushing them. So it was really interesting to see them come to me like, we appreciate what you do. We understand that you're, pushing us harder than really what they would have gotten anywhere else. And so I feel like, yeah, just having that, like recognizing that difference, but then also having that like responsibility. Like it's interesting that and every time I go, like people who, I mean, you get what you pay for. Right. And we all know that. And I think the saying is, oh man, good. What is it? Good things aren't cheap. Cheap things aren't free. Things aren't cheap or something like that. I don't know. I messed that up, but it's like to the point of the matter. The fact of the matter is like, you got to put some money and invest in yourself and invest in your health. And like, I've got figures and everything like that of showing not just that it's about cost and everything, but the people who are truly invested, it's not even a question. They just want to get better. They want to get better because back to what drives me, like the mission that I have is to keep people healthy, to keep people shooting a bow, archery or hunting in general, be outside with their families. Basically, what's your kind of motto? Get out, live your life and love it or something like that, right?
Yep.
Like,
You got it.
so it's along those same lines. Like you want to motivate people, you want to get people out there. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do is just like, I don't want someone to have to hang up a bow and be like, I can't do that anymore. Like there's no reason why you need to do that. You can get better. And there's models, like I was saying, that show how a cash-based system is significantly less money. It is a little bit more upfront, I'll be honest. But if you look at it, you're not going to a PT twice a week, 3 times a week. Once you start doing that, it's so expensive at the end of the day, and how much they're charging and stuff like that. It's like, to me, I'm like, a cash-based system makes so much sense. But not that it's all about the money. It's about getting people better. It's about the experience.
Right. Yeah. And definitely, I hear you on that one. And yeah, it's funny that you bring up that phrase because, I wear hats all the time. And, my hat was on the table. We were playing card games or something the other night. And so my kids love to take my hat and like wear it and be like, oh, I'm daddy, and pretend to say something that I say. And so it turned into a game apparently where they passed it around the table. We were at my mom's house and like everyone like put the hat on. They were like, oh, I'm Jonathan, and one of them said that they were like, oh, get out, live your life and love it. And they were laughing at me. And I was like, hey, but it sticks, huh? Like, you remember that? And then what was the other one? Oh, they were like, oh, hey, you amazing, beautiful people. I was like, you know what? If that's how I start my podcast, that's fine.
Yeah, as long as it sticks, then it's good. That's
Right.
fine.
But no, that's the whole reason. Like, the whole phrase was a lot longer, and I had to shorten it down to that, because I really do. I noticed that for me, that was a big deal. Getting outdoors, that was a key to my happiness and my family's happiness as well. I do notice that when we slack off on getting outdoors, it's not nearly as happy of an environment, and then living your life. How many people nowadays don't live their lives? They go punch a clock, they come home, they turn on Netflix, they eat some crappy food, and they go to sleep just to do it all over again. And then they do that till they retire, and then they're like, oh, well, when I retire, I'll be able to do all this stuff. And then when they retire, they're overweight, they're hurting, they're having to have all these surgeries, and they can't go enjoy their retirement. And that's why I just say that, live your life and then love it, because you can't just be punching the clock. You need to love your life. You need to find something that you enjoy, that you can share with others and be passionate about, so that you're not just cruising through.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. So I did want to ask as well, kind of switching gears here from Mountain Physio to Preston as a dad and a husband. How do you get your family involved in the outdoors? What are some things that you guys do?
Yeah. I need to do a better job at this, but I'm not. My wife will remind me. But she'll say, all you do is push your hobbies on us, but it's not true, I would say. No. But it is, to an extent, true. Like, to me, what drives me is just being outside, being in the outdoors, being like, yeah, being in the mountains, which is kind of being in the mountains, being in the marsh, being somewhere like that where I'm just enjoying it. It can be at the park and stuff like that. It can be just doing something. And it usually has something to do with being away from, I would say, civilization, and like being outside. So mostly I can think of here in Salt Lake, being in the mountains. And that's what we do as a family. Like, we spend so much time a week and stuff like that, hiking. We'll go for walks. We'll go for Sunday walks. We'll go for stuff like that, right? Just trying to get out. But I think I've always been one of those that, like, I've got to go hiking and stuff like that. And so we'll go hiking as a family. It used to, when my daughter was, gosh, that's funny, because I always tell people this when they have like young kids. I'm like, oh, your kid's 18 months old, like 0 to 18 months, you can put them in the backpack and they're good. And then after 18, they just want to get out, and you want to have this idea of going to hike like 1.5 miles, and you can go like 300 yards, and then they're tired and crying. And so you're heading back home. We've all been there. I've been there. And so now we're at a fun age where we can get out there, we can go for a good hike and stuff. And I got my wife's, she's actually really does enjoy archery. And we went duck hunting the other day, and she shot her first duck, and she's like, that's pretty fun too. She didn't really grow up doing any hunting. My daughter, she shoots a bow and really good. We went to Total Archery Challenge last year in Colorado as a family, and then with my brother and his family. And the two 7-year-olds were shooting across the pond like 40 yards and hitting the target. And so like they're pretty good. And so it's fun. We do a lot of stuff like that. I've got 2 bird dogs too, so that gets us outdoor, throwing the frisbee. And then my wife and I, probably one of our passions is riding horses, riding mules. And so we love doing that. We don't get out and do that near enough, but that's something that we love to do. We love riding the mules and packing in and doing all sorts of things. But that's, again, what I grew up doing. And so I'm kind of just passing it on to my daughter. So my wife may kind of jokingly say, you just push yourself onto us, your hobbies. And I guess I kind of do, but I think they're good hobbies to do. I think they're good life skills to learn in the woods and in the wilderness, and life skills to learn how to take care of animals. And anyways.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that's awesome. And yeah, sometimes it can feel like we're pushing our stuff on the family, but I also like just the simple idea of, going to the park. It doesn't have to be some grand affair, that you get out and you have to go backpacking with your family. Like, you can just be going to the park. And I think a lot of people overlook that, or even just walking around the block, saying hi to your neighbors, just getting to know someone new that has lived by you for 5 years and you've just never said hi,
Yeah.
things like that. But also, yes, I've been there with the kids, and I'm a little bit meaner, and I tell them, no, we're not turning back, and we're going to keep going, and I will carry you, and you can cry all you want. We're going to go.
That's funny. One one of
Yeah.
my one of my really quick, Jonathan, one of my most like this last year we were out a lot scouting for bison, doing all sorts of things like that. So we were camping almost every single weekend. And yeah, one of the more memorable ones was we went on a backpacking trip. My mom had never been. She's 60, I don't know, 5, something like that, 60 years old. And she's like, I've never been on a backpacking trip. So we took her. I was like, hey, you got to carry all your gear in your back, on your back, food and everything. And then she's like, my pack's heavy. I'm like, start taking stuff out. Exactly. And same thing with my daughter. My daughter and my wife came, and they had never done anything like that, like an overnight backpacking trip. That was one of the funnest things. Like, I had every intention of taking cameras up and getting to my deer spot. So selfishly, I was kind of going to the deer. I didn't even get anywhere near that. Like, we didn't get close because it was just further than we all wanted to go. But it was fine. Like, it was so fun just to be there with those people and let them experience something that they've never, like, all three of those have never done anything like that, where they take their, their stove, their jet boil, their backpack, their sleeping bag, their pad, their chair, water. And it was funny at the trailhead. They're like, well, my pack's really heavy. I'm like, well, start getting rid of stuff. And then I think my mom got rid of her chair. And then I got up there and I got my chair out, and she's like, well, I should have brought my chair. I'm like, there's some things I never like. I'll suffer with the weight so I can put in my chair so I don't have to sit on the ground. But anyways, it was just one of those experiences that was pretty cool all around for everyone to do.
Yeah, I agree. I took my kids up. Oh man, was it last? I think it was 2020. Because yeah, so I almost missed my daughter's graduation. I didn't realize that it was her graduation. They didn't tell me, and so it was also my birthday. And I told my wife the only thing I want to do was take our boys up backpacking, and so I made. So Asher at the time was 5, and I made him carry his snacks and water. That was it. That was heavy enough for him.
Oh
And we
yeah.
actually went up. I want to say it was 3.5, almost 4 miles. And I was pretty surprised. I was fully expecting to be carrying him along with my pack and all of his stuff, and but no, he made it. He made it all the way up and then all the way back down. Um, and then our older boy who's 14, and my youngest brother. It's funny because my youngest brother's the same age as our middle son, so um
Awesome.
that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun. I do love backpacking trips and just unplugging and making them go out and focus on things other than screens. And everyone's overwhelmed with screens nowadays, whether it be school, work, social media, movies, whatever. Just getting out and unplugging every once in a while is nice.
I
um
I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's unplugging. Like, I love going to the park, throwing the frisbee, doing stuff like that. But getting into a canyon where you have no service is like the best thing ever for me, because going somewhere, even if I have service, just like not even dealing with my phone, and my wife and I and my daughter, we can talk, we can look at the birds, we can listen. I think that's the big thing, is like having almost that serenity, almost like that quiet serenity, I'll say, where it's just like you can hear the birds chirping, you can hear the squirrels, you can hear that. It's kind of sounds weird, but maybe as an outdoorsman, other people will maybe understand that it's like there's something about that moment right there where you can hear the stream, you can hear the leaves, you can hear that. You can hear yourself really like thinking and just de-stressing, is so critical. And I think from a health standpoint, I always tell people, like my patients here in Utah, especially, will get some pretty bad inversion in the wintertime. And my suggestion every single time is, it doesn't matter if whether you're just driving up the canyon once a week just to get above the inversion, like you got to get out and get some fresh air. And so I always tell people to have a winter hobby. In Utah, skiing and snowboarding is a big thing, but snowshoeing. Oftentimes our winters aren't that bad. You get up high enough and most of the snow is melted off. Go for a little hike, and it's just little things like that that are super important that I tell my patients, because mental health is a huge issue, and getting people outdoors and enjoying that kind of, like I say, that quiet serenity there is necessary in our world today.
Yeah. It was, I can't remember who it was. It was probably, I don't know if you follow Order of Man or Ryan Mickler. I think he said something about it where he had gone to, I think they just went to Mexico to check out some event place, and he spent all the time with the family and they were pretty much unplugged the whole time. And he came back and he was like, man, I was gone for a couple of days and I almost forgot that the world was ruined because of XYZ. And then I turned the TV back on and I'm reminded really quick of how terrible things are when they really aren't, and I feel like, it's constantly being pumped towards us, all this negative stuff, and to get out there and realize like none of that's really important. What's really important is what's right in front of you. For us, it's our family. And, what kind of legacy am I going to leave behind for my kids? And what do I want them to understand about the world and things like that? So I 100% agree. I like that idea of the snowshoeing or hiking. That's definitely a really good idea to get people outside, and definitely above that inversion, because that inversion is terrible. So being from North Carolina, when we went back this summer, something that I did, and I always forget about it because out here it's so eerily quiet at night. Like there's nothing moving. It's weird. North Carolina, you go out there and it's so loud at night. And I forgot about it until I went back out, and it was almost comforting. All the cicadas and the crickets and the bullfrogs and everything that are just sounding off all night long. And I slept on the back porch of this lake house that my family has because I loved it. It was screened in, had a nice little breeze, and I was listening to that all night. It was awesome. And I'd much rather have that noise than most of the other noise that's being pumped at us day in and day out. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's the issue, is we're always bombarded with all this stuff that we need to have some time to listen to nothing, as odd as that sounds. But
yeah. And something else too, and health is a big thing for you. When people talk about, whether it be with fitness, what's the magic? Like I did this challenge the other day, and I was inviting people to join this 8-week challenge. And like some of the first messages were like, well, what's the drink? And I'm like, it's not a magic pill. Like, I just want to help you. and so many people are so focused on that. I feel like that mindset's almost been applied to, like the vaccine, with COVID and a bunch of other things with health. People are just like, I want the quick fix. I want the surgery. I want this and that. And I'm like, that doesn't fix the core issue. Is movement and meeting your nutritional needs, and not overdoing it on nutrition. Right. And then just the basic preparation work, depending on whatever it is you want to do. Not everyone wants to be a CrossFitter. Not everyone wants to be an archer. Not everyone wants to be, a heavy weightlifter. Some people just want to live a better quality of life. And I try and find those goals for people, just asking them that annoying question of why. And, that we hate that 2-year-olds ask us over and over again, because we end up not having an answer, and it frustrates us because we don't have the answer to give them. But now as an adult, I love that question, because it gets people, it like peels away the layers until you find that core, for people. And anyway, just finding what people really want to do and tailoring what they need to do as far as movement and nutrition based on those needs. I think that's something that I think anyone could benefit from that. And I'm sure you'd agree on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. What's one highlight from this, now switching gears again to the other who Preston is? What's a highlight from your hunting season this year? Because you've had a couple.
Oh man, I've had a couple, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to beat the bison. It's going to be hard to beat so drawing the sportsman's tag, which was, I thought I put in this last year hoping that I'd draw again, and I didn't. And I was kind of bummed, but someone told me the other day, they're like, if you would have drew that, I would have never spoke to you again. So it was all a matter of just luck, but that was pretty special to shoot that. And it's hard. I mean, that was a fun hunt just because it was A, difficult. B, I had my whole family there. Like, when I ended up killing the bison, good friends, my wife and my daughter, and they got to come down and like, they got to see me literally skin the entire bison, myself and my friend Jaden, and then carrying it out. This is pretty cool. This is actually a pretty cool moment. Is I shot the bison at about, 5:36. We ended up recovering it after going back, getting backpacks, my wife and my daughter, bringing people back down. At 8:00, I think we got to the bison. From 8 to midnight, we cleaned up this bison. And then from midnight to 3:30, we hiked back. And my wife probably carried 100 pounds on her pack. I know that my pack was about 100 pounds and my buddy's was about 100 pounds. And then he had a pack wheel full of about 250 pounds of meat. And then we had 2 7-year-olds hiking in the middle of the night. And so like just putting all that together, and then like it's pitch black, headlamps are dying because we've been cutting up the meat for 4.5 hours. Like it's just like very dim headlamps, and watching my daughter, like my wife will get kind of emotional in this. She's like, my daughter, she's like, Mom, you can do this. Like, I believe in you. You can do this. And my wife's like, that is the hardest thing that I've ever done, is carrying that much weight for that long in the middle of the night. It started raining and thundering and lightning. And it's like, it was just one thing after the next. Right. But so it's going to be hard to beat that right there. But I will tell you, I have like my love and passion is like hunting mule deer is just so much fun for me. I don't know what, I know exactly what it is because I love hunting elk. I love eating elk. I love hearing elk bugle. Like I love looking at elk, but if I could look at a mule deer or an elk, I'd definitely choose that mule deer. And I just stare at the thing. That sounds weird, but hunting mule deer with my brother, having him shoot a nice buck this year is always so much fun. Spending time with him, my nephews, like, and then hunting extended season is always a good time. Like I just love that drive. I just love that I have that passion for mule deer. Like they're just cool animals, and like they're hard. Maybe it's just because I've been duped by them way too many times, and you think you got them, and they're smart, and big bucks are just awesome to see. So I don't know. The highlight's probably going to be that bison hunt. That was amazing. That was incredible. But I am fortunate enough to do a lot of hunting and shot an elk. Elk was awesome. Good shot. But again, back to the bison, like one arrow, 70-yard shot, clean pass through, like everything I'd been working up towards for that one shot, it all worked out. And yeah, I look back and I'm like, maybe there was quite a bit of luck in that shot. I don't know, but I had put a lot of work into it. But sometimes I'm like, man, I am not shooting well today. And how did I get so lucky to shoot a bison with my bow and just position, target or get that arrow in the perfect spot that it died quickly and efficiently. And anyway, so that's probably that'll be hard to beat. Yeah. But there's a lot of other good things that I'm kind of rambling here. There's a lot of other good things that we were able to do this year from a hunting standpoint that were really good. So
That's awesome. And I think the phrase is luck is where preparation meets opportunity. You
Oh,
prepared, because if you
yep.
hadn't been prepared, you wouldn't have been able to make that 70-yard shot go through, right? If you didn't have the right equipment, you might have stuck him in the shoulder or something. Um, so
It's true. I know you use Dan's saying always be tinkering and stuff like that. And I love it as well, because man, if we want to geek out on stuff, like we could talk archery, and I'm holding an arrow right now and messing around with that. But yeah, archery or hunting equipment and stuff like that. It's just, to me, it's so fun to kind of tinker and mess around with different things. And anyways, yeah.
well, yeah, and I love that mindset too, just because it can apply to everything, man. It applies to fitness, it applies to nutrition. Like I'm always tinkering with my food, trying to fit. Because dude, honestly, if it was up to me, I could smash a large pizza and some soda and ice cream afterwards every night, all night. Like I could do that easy. Obviously, that's not good for you. So I've had to tinker a lot and find out like how I can get less calorie dense foods so that I'm full, and I trick my mind into thinking I ate a lot when I really didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it applies to that mindset. I love that phrase because I did it a lot before, and I never really had a phrase for it. I just said, just kind of always messing around or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like it. And especially I think that's what I'm hooked on with archery as well, is that you can always be messing around with things. I'm like, I just added a little nose button to my setup. I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. I love it,
Nice.
and so just things like that. Arrow setups. I mean, it's expensive when each one's starting to cost you about $40.
Yeah.
And then, and you end up missing a turkey or something with it. You're like, no. But yeah, no, it's the thrill, man. And I agree with you on the mule deer. If it's anything over a, I'd say a 3 point for me,
Yeah.
I can get that rush. Anything under that, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, yeah. And it has to be a solid 3 point. Like I've noticed that. But with elk, like even if it's just cows, that gets me going. Like
Does it?
I've got that drive for, maybe it's because it was my first official year hunting elk.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we got into a bugle fest in September, man, and it was like freaking Jurassic Park. And it just, oh, it made me so happy.
And it's like, I don't know. Yeah, there's something about calling to animals and having them respond is so much fun. It's turkey hunting. Turkey hunting is a blast. Like, so I go back to like just archery hunting. Archery hunting turkeys, man, bow hunting turkeys has proven to be the hardest thing that I've ever done. Like, I've killed a mule deer with my bow. I've yet to kill a turkey with my bow. And people will be like, they'll probably hear this and be like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I kill turkeys all the time with my bow. And it's like, spot and stock turkey hunting though is not easy. And that's what Utah turkey hunting is usually, is spot and stock turkey hunting. And so it's not like back east. It's not like back east where there's just thousands of them and they're coming into a field and stuff like that. It's spot and stock, and that's tough. But it's the same thing with like elk hunting. Elk hunting, calling to them is so much fun. This year deer hunting, like I guess I got distracted, got over on a ridge and just started bugling and cow calling, and all of a sudden they start calling, and then I've stopped deer hunting and I'm just bugling just for the heck of it, just because I'm like, I just want to hear them bugle, and it's fun to see if they'll come to you. And it's the same thing. Like that's really what kind of gets me for like waterfowl hunting too. It's very similar, like lots of calling, setting up decoys and trying to get them to come to you is it's just a rush. But I think that's really one of the things that is so exciting to me about mule deer is there's not that interaction really, except for maybe in the rut, but there's not that interaction where they're just hard. And that just makes them hard. Like, and then I know the other thing for me about mule deer, it's the location that they live. Like they live in some of the most incredible high basins, right? I mean, usually we're hunting them in 12,000 feet elevation, right? In these rocky basins and all sorts of things like that, pines or some quakies. And it's just like, they live in some amazing, amazing areas. And so I think that's really what does it. It's the fact that to get into those countries, to see those big mule deer, you've got to you've got to get way back in there. You've got to cover some ground and you've got to get away from people.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. And that one that I shared with you, that was chasing those. I don't remember how many does it was, but that was pretty cool to see. I don't think I've seen any real action like that in a while, and or ever. And so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. That was, and you could tell he was king of that little basin right there. He just, the way he just walked, just that composure that he had, he knew he had this thing wrapped up.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Hunting's a lot of bow hunting's, I think, lots of luck into it as well. Cause I think you'd always text me when you'd go, hey, I had this buck at 20 yards today. It was just staring at me. And I'm just over here going up mountains, trying to how to get close to a deer. And you're looking for elk and they're 20 yards away from you.
That's how it works, man. I swear they put pheromones on these tags.
Yeah.
They have to. Like
it was bad. It was like every time you do that, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's funny because that's what
though.
happened. That's what happened with my buddy too. We one of my first years out here in Utah, I went up with him when we were actually mule deer hunting, and I can't remember what it was, but he had an elk tag in his pocket. So it was funny because he had like a rifle with him and his bow. Because he had a rifle elk tag, but he had his bow for the deer. So he was like, I'm ready for anything. And anyway, so we were up there. We were actually just looking for deer though. And we found an elk. That was my first experience up close with an elk. It was a solid 5 point. It wasn't a raghorn 5 point. It was a nice 5 point off by himself. Anyway, he ended up tagging out on that elk. And that was my first up close encounter with an elk. And I was like, man, these things are massive and they're awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to kind of wrap up here. I wanted to ask you one more question, that really annoying question that 2-year-olds like to ask. And what is your why for everything that you do? If you could think about it and take the time that you need, but what is your why, the core thing that gets you going with everything that you do?
Yeah, that is a good question.
Like, why does Preston hunt? Why does he, why are you a good dad, good husband? Why are you an entrepreneur? Why physical therapy?
Yeah, I guess I'll answer that with probably one word would probably be value. I want, maybe time, maybe value, but it's just a matter of like, my why is like, I want to value, I want other people to be valued. I want them to be, feel comfortable. I want my daughter, my wife, them to know, right, that they're valued, that I love them, that they mean the world to me. The people that I spend when I go hunting with, it's about that time or those memories. For me, like some of again, the sweetest times that I've had bison hunting, it was about that time with the family and having, just valuing that time really. And then all the other hunts that I can think of this year, my nephew tagging out on his doe, and it's just like just being together. It's the times that we got my nephew darn close to killing his first deer, and it's just like, or an elk, and it's just like I went up on a separate occasion just to take him up there, and it's just that time together that you make those memories. The same thing goes with my business as an entrepreneur. It's making sure that other people feel valued, that they receive the best care that they need so that they can spend really time doing what they love, whether it's in the mountains, hunting, bow hunting, whatever it is. Like, I think that's probably what it comes down to, is just value. Like, I want people to recognize value in myself and in my skills and in my business and how it benefits them. And so that's maybe the word that I would use. Is I've always liked the word value, particularly going through grad school and everything else. And then starting on a business is like, I want people to recognize value when they see it. And I want to value other people as well and respect them. And I think we don't see that maybe too often these days, or maybe we do. And it's just, there's a lot of other noise in the world that that doesn't happen, right? There's too much noise that we need to kind of take a step back and I think respect one another and, show each other we care for each other and show the other people that they're valued in life. And I think if you did that, there'd be a lot less problems. So that's probably the word that's how I'd sum it up, I guess.
Cool. I like it. Have you ever been asked that question before?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I like it. So I'm understanding that you want to create value and help other people recognize value in their lives. I like that. That's a good way to summarize that. And I think that definitely wraps up everything that you do. And again, something that I've appreciated, following you on Instagram and getting to know you in person a little bit and messaging back and forth. I can see that you truly do hold that as something that's super important to you. And sharing that with other people is definitely a big deal. So thank you for that. And thank you for your time today. I don't have anything else for you. You got anything for me?
I don't. Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me be on. This is a good time. I feel like when I'm on a podcast in like 10 episodes, it's going to be way good, but every time it gets better. This is probably the best one that we've done. That's awesome. Like we were talking, I usually don't go back and listen to myself because I just can't handle listening to myself speak, but hopefully it was valuable for other people and they got something out of it. But I appreciate you having me on. This is a good time.
Yeah, for sure. And where can people find you if they're looking for a physical therapist?
So my website's the best way to get a hold of me. www.Mtn Physio. That's MTN PHYSIO. So mtnphysio.com. You can fill out a little form. It sends it right to me. You can online. You can schedule an appointment. Offer free consultations, so people can kind of give me a call and we can make sure that it's a good fit. And then Instagram, I think, is Mtn_Physio, and that's a good way to reach out to me. Again, you can schedule, you can message me there, and then my email is drprestonward@mtnphysio.com. So Facebook, I'm on Facebook as well. I'm not as active on Facebook. I think Instagram is usually, it's hard to find the time to do everything else, but Facebook, I'm on there every now and then, but Instagram is where I'm mostly active, and then my website for sure.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks. Yeah. If you guys are looking for anyone to help you get repaired and get ready for next season, or if you've got any spring hunts, or if you're going down to Texas to shoot some hogs or anything like that, this guy will hook you up. So reach out to him. And again, thanks, Preston, for being on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan.
And as I always say, get out, live your life, and love it. All right. Well, that wraps everything up as far as our interview here with Preston. He's just, again, an amazing guy. Thanks for listening. Again, if you want to go down to the links below, I'd appreciate it if you check out the Instagram, the Facebook group. I'd love to have you on if you're interested in any sort of fitness, nutritional group. Before you head into the new year, let's go ahead and work those kinks out and get you started off right on the right foot during the new year. And also any companies that I work with, that I've used, that I consistently use on a daily basis or a frequent basis, are down below as well for any discounts that you might want for any of your needs for that gear. And thank you again for listening. Please go into Apple Podcasts and review us. I'd love to have that review to get our name out there a little bit more. And also on Spotify, give me a follow so that you can get those pop-ups every Thursday and Sunday when I do release a new episode. So thanks again, guys, and hope you guys have an amazing day. And as always, get out, live your life, and love it.